Great. Now we have our plants potted. Now we want to go over the basics of watering plants in containers or pots. It's way different than compared on the ground. So this video is going to focus on watering plants in containers and pots. Here we have a good example. So typically, let's paint a picture how we normally water plants. We look at our plants and we usually touch the top of the soil to see if it has enough water. If it feels wet, we don't water it. If it feels dry, we water it. We're here to tell you that's not the best way. It's actually the wrong way. The reason is because when we're dealing with a plant in a pot, all it has is whatever's inside this container. So we got to make sure it always has exactly what it needs in the container. Sometimes when we go ahead and water, the water goes on it, it fills up the top, and then the rest just goes right down the side. So the top part of the soil feels wet, but guess what? The bottom's completely dry. That results in your plant's roots staying at top of the surface and not going down deep. When we water the pot deeply so the entire pot gets filled with water and saturated, the roots will go down and drink that water. Then as it dries down, the roots are gonna go down deeper looking for more water, and then you're gonna water thoroughly again. So now that we know that we water the entire pot, the other important thing to know is that wet to dry cycles are really important for plants. We don't want the plant to be wet all the time, nor do we want it to be dry all the time. We want it to go from wet to dry. The reason why we want it to go from wet to dry is because when the soil dries down, oxygen fills back up in that soil system, and roots need oxygen to breathe. It would be like as if I went into a bucket of water for a long time, fully wet, I wouldn't be able to breathe. I need to come up back for air. So that's why you want to go for that wet to dry cycle. And like I just said, a lot of times we test to see if it's dry just by sticking our fingers in the pot. That's not how we do it. And what I'm about to show you is a demonstration of how you can do this at home. And the key thing to realize is that water has weight, right? When you're filling a 1 gallon jug of water, it's heavy. When you empty it out, it's light. That's how we're gonna judge our plants to see if they need water. We'll do a weight test. I'm gonna show you on a scale, the same looking plants, they both have different water inside them right now. So what I'm gonna do is turn the scale on. I'm gonna lift these both up. Woo! I can feel this is really light and this is much heavier. Let's see if there's a difference in weight. Okay, so the one that feels light to me is 2.47 pounds. Now I'm gonna switch this out and put the one that feels heavy that I think doesn't need any water. It's almost a pound and a half more in water weight. Guess what? That's about a pint, a little bit more than a pint of water. So this plant that I can lift up and feel heavy, I don't need to give it water. No. I know what you're thinking. You don't need a scale to weigh all your plants. You just need to get used to lifting it up. On a big pot, all we do is rock that edge to see if we can lift it. If we can't lift it, it doesn't need water. If we can lift it, it most likely needs water. So we want to get you used to that wet to dry cycle by feeling the weight of your plants. If you just put your finger in top and check it, it's going to be wrong. You're not going to grow a healthy plant. We check all our plants here, and you should check them too. So now let me go ahead and show you how much water to give your plants, because that's another important thing. Let me say it like this. The two important things to watering is the amount you give them and the frequency of water you give them. So you might have heard some plants like rosemary and thyme are dry plants. In the past, even myself, used to just give them a little bit of water, not fill up the entire pot. That's the wrong way to do it. If you're told your plant is a dry plant, you still need to water that pot thoroughly. The difference between a dry plant and a wet plant is you're gonna allow that dry plant to become really light and let it stay light for a period of time. Like we might water our mints every day and then our rosemaries every 3 days. On a wet plant, you don't want that pot to get too light. You want it to get a little bit medium lighter and then water it again. That's the difference in cycles. No matter what, I'm giving them the same amount of water. It's just if it's a dry plant, I'm allowing it to stay dry for a longer period of time. If it's a wet plant, I'm making sure it doesn't stay dry for too long. So I hope that makes sense, because that's the important pieces. We check to measure, we check our plants by lifting it up if they need enough water. And if it's a dry plant, I let it stay light for a few days or however long until watering again. The next question that really comes out to a lot of people, well, how much water do I give them? Remember, you're gonna give them a rosemary plant the same amount of water as a mint plant that normally likes it wet, it's just gonna water them differently. So the way we figure out how much water we give them is by the pot sizes. On average, when you're using our soil, we put about a pint of water per gallon. What does that mean? 5 gallon bag gets 5 pints. 3 gallon bag gets 3 pints. 10 gallon bag gets 10 pints. And there's about 8 pints in a gallon to kind of give you an idea of how much water you should be giving them. you might ask yourself, how do I know how much water that is? I'm gonna show you a quick and easy way to calibrate it so that way you can have an idea what you're gonna do. So let's go ahead and do this right now.